Hi everyone. A lot of people in these strange times that we've been having, a lot of people talk about their role and what they were drawn to do, and this is what this is my role in this whole thing. And I won't say the name, but you can read that, and I now know that it does actually come up the right way around, so that's good. And it's myths and facts. And for those of you who, it's thicker than ever this time. For those of you who might have seen the first little one, this is the 4th edition. The first little one was a very slim volume with a red cover, but yes, it keeps growing. And of course, it's a huge topic. And in today's world, it's not enough just to say, which it should be absolutely enough to say, oh, I don't think I'll do that. I don't feel like that. I don't feel like, you know, having my ears pierced. I don't feel like having a mole removed or whatever. It should be your own personal and private decision that you decide something, you research it. It's all you get actual knowledge when you research, and you go and you may pay for it to have something done, and it's your choice, and that's the way it should be. But unfortunately, as we all know, it isn't. And in this world that we're living in as we speak now, we have to defend our decision with people who don't particularly aren't very concerned about gut feelings or anything like that, or instinct. So we have to defend our decision both with authorities, but also it makes life a lot more comfortable for us all, especially if you've got little kids, if your family are on board, if they can at least understand why you're deciding this. So yes, it's just a huge decision. And when I was writing this, I felt like an archaeologist digging for the research. You could never say to a young mum or anything, oh, do your own research, because if she looks, all she's going to find is, I don't like the word misinformation, let's call them lies. It's thick with lies. And as we know, from this one and also in the last book, this none of the research has been done by the people, proper research with controls, as in vaccinated and unvaccinated. None of it has been done by the authorities that should have been have done it. It's a huge list, but it includes the CDC, the NIH, the TGA, and so on and so on and so on. It's a massive list, and this research has never been done. And in fact, I saw that when I first started looking at this. I'm not a medical person in any way, shape or form. Well, health, yes, but yeah, nothing about, I'm not a medical person at all. But when I started looking, I was expecting to see, that was 14 years ago, I was expecting to see a lot of stats and graphs and things and, scientific proof for explaining why we do this. I'd never even thought about it before. And I was amazed, quite honestly, when it wasn't there. I looked, I thought, where's the information? And then I came across, I'll actually name him, a wonderful man called Neil Z. Miller. And as it happens, there was a little health food shop who was brave enough 14 years ago to have a book. And the minute I saw his references and everything, I knew that this was the truth of it, that it was that this was where the science was. I could tell that just by the fact that he was quoting these things and that the other side didn't. Anyway, so you have to defend yourself in some way, and the great thing about this book is that it's really, really simple. It's got big text and lots of pictures. And I've written it so that there's no jargon, there's no There's nothing that a 10-year-old wouldn't understand. And I've had people, foreigners, people from overseas whose English is their second language saying, oh, it was really easy to read, I read it in one night sort of thing. And that's the intention, that it's easy, and yet everything in here links back to the references and the links. And I've included as many original research papers as I possibly can to nail down the proof of what I'm saying. And all of those are actually on the website, which is live, and are live on that underneath the resources thing. So I'll just run over it very, very quickly. We start off, of course, everybody mentions smallpox and polio. And smallpox was a dreadful thing. This man maybe was well-intentioned, I don't know, but a lot of people back then, I mean, doctors didn't even wash their hands when he was fiddling around with cow pus and everything. So, that actually created a lot of illness and a lot of unnecessary suffering. And never worked. It couldn't work because it was a different thing. And in fact, cleaning and disinfecting homes, as Dr. Suzanne Humphreys tells us, was far more successful in stopping the spread of that disease. And of course, most diseases are because of toxicity in some form. It might be just filth in many cases, which it was back in those days, and in the third world. It's basically, if you've got clean water, refrigeration, and good living conditions, plenty of nutrients, then the chances are you're going to be healthy. But once you take those away and you're living on nothing and cups of tea and bread and butter and in filthy conditions, then you're going to get sick eventually. Anyway, then we go on to polio, because everybody mentions polio, and in my era that was very much a thing, and we all believed in this miracle. We didn't want to have this thing, but we did. Anyway, there's a wonderful woman called Bernice Eddy who was talking about paralyzed monkeys before they released these shots. And then, of course, we go straight on to the Wyeth memo. The Wyeth memo is in here, which many of you who know this subject will know, that they were getting SIDS cases in the 70s. This was in the 70s, and the memo's in here. In the 70s, they were getting SIDS cases, that's sudden infant death syndrome, of course, and they decided not to improve their vaccines, which I don't think was possible anyway, probably, but to spread them out so that they wouldn't get a whole cluster of dead babies in one place, that people would begin to join the dots together. And there's been a lot of obfuscation right the way along to make sure that we didn't make the connections. So since I did the last book, we've done one. I've got a little bit of a different thing on the COVID thing, only a few pages, because it's a completely different story in a way. It's part of the same story, but it's just too big to fit in one book. And this is about the normal childhood things. Then the research that we've got is just amazing now, and none of it's done by the authorities. As I said, it's all done by stubbornly ethical humanitarians, often at their own expense and at the expense of their careers. In the case of, many of them, a lot of them have lost their careers over this. When Paul Thomas is one of them, Dr. Paul Thomas, but this, oh gosh, it's we've got some real heroes in this area, some real heroes, and I've got the names of some of them in the back. Okay, so whichever way you look at the research. Here we're looking at the number of clinic visits over 10 years, vax versus not. And then we've got various not placebo-controlled vax, but it's sort of jabbed and not jabbed sort of thing studies. They all point, doesn't matter how you look at this, they all point in the same direction, and that is that nature knows best, and the vaccine-free are far healthier. They are far healthier, and this is why the authorities won't research this. I think they may have possibly tried in the past, but they won't do it. Anyway, there's quite a lot of those. The other thing that I have is that Stanley Plotkin, I've got the names here now, Stanley Plotkin and Dr. Catherine Edwards, who are at the very top of the vaccine development vaccine development area at the CDC. Both of them were caught in depositions under oath, revealing that they didn't even design the studies properly to be able to tell if vaccines caused autism or not. Never mind all the other stuff, that's one of the main things, but the studies were not designed to even show what we need to show. No placebo studies on any of these childhood things, the proper ones. None of them. They've just never been done. And these people speaking under oath, with the wonderful Aaron Siri, who's absolutely amazing with he works with the ICANN network and Del Bigtree. His skills as a lawyer are just amazing to see, and it's like catching that lie, and he does it so well. Anyway, now then, we've also, oh yes, the other thing is that I'll mention, I got this in the last book, but I'll put it in again, through Greg Beattie's research. I realised, because I did, you sort of wonder, oh, maybe they save lives in Africa and India and places where, conditions are still awful for a lot of people. They didn't. Greg Beattie found that they didn't. They were just, there was no, he's got the graphs of, which I've put in here, thank you, Greg, of the infant death rate not going down at all as a result of massive waves of jabs. And also in the 80s, I think it was. Anyway, some scientists, they had whole jab programs in the 80s in Guinea-Bissau, and the scientists went back and looked at the results, because they realised that they'd actually inadvertently created a jabbed versus unjabbed study, and when they looked back, they realised that the death rate of the jabbed was actually 5 to 10 times higher than the unjabbed, that they'd actually been killing children. And we've got a wonderful, courageous man, Peter Arby, describing that, and also I've got the links to the original studies. So it's huge. The text is simple, but it goes back to this research, and where I can, the person actually talking about the research. So I've also got, keeping myself on track here, I've also got a few documents that I used to think you could defend yourself with the Nuremberg Code, the immunization handbook. Immunization, of course, vaccines are not immunizations. The best immunization is good food and good health and good sleep and all the rest of it. So we've got a few of those. We've got a couple of doctors' letters, and in theory, you should be able to defend yourself with that, but it seems not. Although hopefully change will come. also lists on how to have a healthy baby, how to recognise vaccine damage, because a lot of parents don't realise when their kid is being vaccine damaged. And I was going to say that it's obvious that the doctor doesn't recognise it either. But these days, I wonder if the doctors realise, and they just carry on anyway because of the incentives and the dangers to their career. Because you doctors get, it's okay, and it's mostly the older ones that have spoken out because they've done the careers, they've brought up the kids, they've paid off the mortgages, and they're in a better position to be able to speak out. And in the last 3 years, we've seen some amazing people speaking out on the other jabs that we all know about, and they've done amazingly. For a man in the middle of his, or a woman in the middle of their career, they spent 8 years studying this. They've got 100 grand's worth of debt, of HEX debt, maybe, depending how they went through. They've got a mortgage to pay off. They've got kids to take to look after and everything. And it's not only that they lose a job, that would be easy, they could just go straight back into another one, but it's their career and their license they lose. So it's a dreadful situation, and I can't blame somebody in that situation for not wanting to know about this. Anyway, that's the situation, and that's the situation that most of your health professionals are in. Even naturopaths, they're doctors, doctors, nurses, chiropractors, their governing bodies are really, really, really hard on them, and they don't defend them at all. They encourage them to follow the narrative rather than to research and do the thing properly. So I hope that's clear. Anyway, that's recognising vaccine damage, to go back to my notes. I've also got some things on where to start the journey of reversing it, because sometimes it can be catastrophic and you can't really get a kid back. But the sooner you recognise it and start trying to reverse it and work with often a homeopath or with diet or whatever, then you can pull that back. There's also a very good thing in here about the Spellers program, which for anybody with an adult, a grown person with non-verbal autism, who get, these people often get frustrated by the fact that they can't speak. There's a whole, there's no doubt that it's an epidemic, this thing. As Robert F. Kennedy Jr. says, missing autism is like missing a train wreck. It is an epidemic. Anyway, if you have an older autistic or vaccine damaged a person, there are ways that they're now teaching them to spell, and there's an amazing amount of eloquence and intelligence hidden in some of these people. So that's amazing as well. So once you've had, the thing about this as well is that once you've handed it over to a doctor, to a family member, to a pregnant mum, they are the most important people to get this information to, anybody, anywhere, that they've got it. It's all in here. They may not want to look at it, but they've got it, and your conscience is clear. You don't have to try and argue polio and smallpox over the dinner table with anybody. That doesn't go well, as we know, unless they're really open to listening, because it's such a vast subject. But you know that you've got it, and that's all you have to do. You just hand it across. Now, I'm really, really pleased that I was able to keep this, although it's bigger than it is, 200 pages, and the 100 references. And I was able to keep it at under $20, which is absolutely amazing. It is a sort of throwaway price. you know, within reason. It's a price that people will pay really easily. That it's, you know, you don't have to think too much about a purchase of that like that, and it's $10 for post and packing for a single book or a couple of books, and you can get that from www.lightoftruths.net. That's from my website, and that'll come through to me, and I'll send that off to you, or I'll send you the details of how to order. It's still a little bit, it's not quite as easy as I'd like it to be, but anyway, you know, all things in good time. And then also from the publisher's website, that's in-house publishing. I self-published, but because I couldn't imagine anybody vetting what I wrote anyway. So that's www.inhousepublishing, all one word, .com.au, and mine is lightoftruths.net. Well, then that's Light of Truths is all one word. So that's those two. I'm sure I'll put those down at the bottom somewhere so that you can see them. And there we are. Before you take a risk, find out what it is. And it's an important book, and maybe this time its time has come. So there we go. Thanks very much. Thank you.